In this video, I would like to introduce uh, some materials from the NCETM, which is about teaching for mastery and also containing important examples for assessment for learning. So this is my homepage. This section is about pgde notes, and inside you can find these links to the booklets provided by NCETM. And so one is for Key Stage 3 and another set is for Key Stage 2. Right, so we can click on the link here, and this is my Evernote file. This one is for the Key Stage 3 booklet. So you can download the PDF in my Evernote file, or go directly to the website of NCETM through this link. Okay? And then you can get the booklet. And this is just part of the booklet that I extract for highlighting some important information. Similarly, for the Key Stage 2 section is here. You can see another link for the Key Stage 2 section, provide the booklet from P1 to P6. So this set here actually contains 6 different booklets. Right? I already download them, and you can directly access these files. These are the PDF files. And at the same time, I also give an introduction, right, which is extracted from the introduction part of each of these booklets. So I can show you my PDF file now. Okay. So this is one of the primary 6 booklets. And then you can see they start with an introduction, a few pages of introduction actually. All right, so these are the few pages of introductions. And then you can scroll down to find individual examples of different topics. And I'd extract the introduction in another PDF file. So you can see these few pages with my highlights. Okay. So I think it's very useful to explain to you the purpose of this set of booklets, particularly in what way they are related to teaching. Okay. So first of all, they all goes to the sections about teaching for mastery. So this section explains what does a mastery mean, different dimensions of mathematics teaching that the NCETM try to promote. Okay? So I think this is also very useful for you to understand what does it mean by good teaching in the classroom of mathematics. Now, particularly for assessment, you can see here, ongoing assessment. That means what we call assessment for learning or formative assessment is an integral part of teaching, and they are even an important part of every lesson. So you can see all examples about question, tasks, and activities that can be used in the classroom, particularly the way that you can set good question and ask good question and how to use them in the classroom. Right? So this highlights the importance of this assessment in all this set of teaching materials. Okay, so let's look at the primary booklet. This is primary 6 booklet. I just quickly show you some examples. So you can look at the items that you are interested. So they come from different topics. For example, this one is about fractions. Okay, so you can see they start with some big ideas. That means explaining what is important in this concept and how we can focus on these important ideas when teaching some concepts about fractions. And then in the later part, you can see a lot of different examples. Right? So these are examples of questions, tasks, or activities. Now they're very simple, so you can think about how to incorporate it in different lessons. Of course, you may not just use it for the whole lesson, right? Or sometimes you can turn it into some worksheet, but sometimes it can be just oral question for discussion in the classroom. For example, this one can be quite useful, right? You ask the student to decide which length is longer, which bar is longer. Suppose only part of this is shown, right? So you test the understanding of the concepts of fraction. And on the right, you have this another version or some other question for deeper understanding. Okay, so they're not simply giving you more challenging question or ask the student to move forward to answer more question only, but try to suggest what are questions for deeper understanding. Now, so this is another examples of questions. And it may look like some textbook or worksheet materials, right? But they also design in a certain way that may leave more flexibility or leave rooms for the student to discuss and make interpretation, right? So you can go through some of the details later. And let's turn to the secondary. So this is the booklet for secondary mathematics. So it's key stage 3, okay? And this is shorter because they only provide one booklet for the entire key stage 3 instead of one booklet for each year. Okay. By the way, you can see they start with some quotes from Dylan Williams, so which is a key figure in formative assessment. You can also find a lot of his work and books in some other areas. Okay, so when you look at the contents, then you can see that they cover areas like numbers, algebra, geometry and measures, different important areas. Now let's look at something in algebra. So that is sections on algebra. Okay, so similar to the primary booklets, they also start with some big ideas and then what crucial concept you will focus on, right? Although this is very short, right? So it may not be totally useful. However, you can also try to assess these suggested reference, okay? So some of these references are given here and can be accessed on the web as well, okay? For further information about this concept or some important concepts in algebra. And then you can scroll down to look at some examples. Some are very short questions, but it can be very good for discussion. For example, which number, this here, which is bigger, 2n or n squared, right? And then ask the student to justify. It may look very simple, but actually they come from some important research in the past, right? Where scholars have already used them for studying the student's understanding and conception. And you can look for more information later about this question. So, for example, this one can also be very simple, but useful to start with, right? To talk about how you can form an expressions or different way the student may write down an expression, including right or wrong way, or right way but equivalent ways, right? That not necessarily all students can recognize. And on this side, you can also see the different ways of posting questions, just like matching the expressions and matching each statement and the expressions. Okay. And let's have a quick check of some other examples. So this is another examples, asking students to think about what happened if you follow these calculations and compare the answers. So the question is already suggested here, right? And it lead to another follow-up questions. How would you justify, okay, the difference between these two? Why the difference is always the same? Can you write down an algebraic identity, right, to express your ideas? So these are good way to ask questions, right? So you can also consider this, how it can be used, or maybe similar kind of question can be used in your lesson when you think of a particular teaching ideas. And so once again, you can see some further notes or references. Right? So for example, so this material may be related to another project called Improving Learning in Mathematics uh, by one other important educators, Malcolm Swan. Okay? So you can also refer to the source to find out more later. And this one also come from a book, The Teaching and Learning of Algebra, which is also available in our library. Right? So you can check this book, find out more ideas in the original source. So so you may go through different kind of questions here and try to think about it. Right? What kind of questions can be used in the classroom? For what purpose? Is it useful for developing the students' understanding, or checking their understanding, or conduct whole class discussion? So these are all useful ideas or examples for you to start with.